Hey everybody, it's Stuart with Wine on the Dime, and Big Sur Vineyards is our guest on the upcoming Pink Society chat this Thursday. They sent me a bottle of the BSV Red Wine to review, and that's exactly what I'm going to do today, so stick around to check out this bottle. Hey everybody, so like I said, today I'm reviewing the BSV Red Wine, this Big Sur Vineyards Red Wine. It is 13.7% alcohol by volume. They were kind enough to send me like a tech doc on this. However, I saw that there were tasting notes and I folded those under. See, because I don't like to spoil the surprise on tastings for myself. However though, I will read the winemaking notes. The Grenache comes from a stony portion of the vineyard. Cooler temperatures and yields make this one of the last grapes to harvest. The Syrah comes from the upper portion of the vineyard where the temperatures are slightly elevated and is usually the first red to be harvested. Petite Sirah from Pierce Ranch tends to be picked early in season as well. The Grenache was fermented with 20% whole cluster, the Syrah with 25% whole cluster, and the Petite Sirah is 100% whole berry. This Calderon wine was fermented separately by the Varietal and then racked and blended in April 2016. Then it was barrel matured in 17% new French oak and the rest neutral French oak until bottling in early 2017. I don't know if you can get more specifics about, unless you're gonna like want a pH chart of what the wine looked like all the way through and like tracking it step by step. That's pretty detailed notes. So thank you for sending that over. I do appreciate that type of stuff because I am a nerd. Does have a traditional cork. But let's take a look at the color of this wine, shall we? All right, so from a color standpoint, well, this is interesting because it could be the shape of the glass playing a trick on me here, but I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm gonna give you a medium ruby, no artifacts, no cloudiness. All right, so let's take a look. We can't really look at the nose, but let's just get to that part of the review. Oh, this is nice. So it's getting a little blackberry, a little bit of black cherry, hint of actual red cherry. There's a little bit of like a cinnamon and clove going on, a touch of, like a very slight touch of dark chocolate. There's a little bit of an earthiness going on. There's a little bit, like an herbiness. What is, kind of like traditional French herbs, like, kind of like sage, a little bit of, you know, like rosemary. There's a little bit of like a leatheriness, like a belt leather. I say that because I have a lot of leather belts and my section of the closet smells like this because of the leather belts. Nothing else leather there at all. Yeah, so I mean it's got this like, nice like an earthiness, this dark fruit, a little bit of red fruit. There's maybe a touch of plum in here as well. This is like a blueberry, like a little bit of a blueberry. Yeah, so lots of dark fruit, a little bit of red fruit, got a nice earthiness to it. But how does it taste? Medium plus acid, medium body, medium tannins. The tannins are a little clingy, like streaky. They're streaky tannins. That's the way I'm gonna describe it. It's like whenever you're cleaning a window and you don't really clean it well the first time and you kind of see the streaks there, and then your wife yells at you for not doing a good job the first time because you were just trying to get it done to get to the wine review. That's exactly what the tannins are like in this wine. So like I said, streaky tannins. In terms of intensity on the nose, I forgot to mention this. Nose, it's about a medium intensity on the nose. On the palate, it's medium plus intensity. The fruit really pops, that acid really brings it out. The thing I really like about this wine though, is that about the midpoint, the fruit kind of peaks up in the approach and then it finds its place in the mid palate and it kind of carries through, and right about in the mid palate, the earth peaks up and it's like, hey, remember us? Like that earthiness, that like soil, that leather, the herbs, like that sage and rosemary type effect, that pops up. And then they all mellow out in the end. And so everything is still just kind of like writing this even thing going into the finish. And you don't really taste anything that finishes out before other stuff. Like that earthiness doesn't drop off before the fruit. And I really like that. Like everything really is kind of clinging together and going all the way down the palate. So that's nice. In terms of finish, say you have about a medium finish. Yeah, so ultimately, I mean, it's a pretty solid wine. I'll admit, I actually was thinking that this was gonna be a dark fruit bomb at first because I saw the Syrah and the Petite Sirah, and those tend to have some pretty dark qualities to it. No, not so much on this. This is actually very, very approachable wine for someone who is possibly not a red wine drinker. Yeah, this is fruity enough, but it has a little bit of that complexity that pulls you in with what you think of red wine. The other thing that I'm starting to pick up on now that I've kind of let it live a little bit in the glass and I've tasted it a little bit, is I'm getting like a touch of sweet tobacco in here. Let's go ahead and get to the blick. Balance, I think you're in balance. Full point there, nothing to complain about. Length, medium finish, half a point. Intensity, I'm gonna go ahead and give you half a point. You have a medium nose, medium plus palate. If that was medium plus or pronounced, I'd probably pull you up a little bit higher, but in this case, just half a point. In terms of complexity, I'm getting primary, secondary, and tertiary, gonna give you a full point. Ultimately, that comes out to 3 points, gonna give you very good. I'm happy with this wine. In terms of what I would eat it with, man, this might just because it's hunting season here in Texas, but I'm thinking like a deer steak. Some backstrap, stuff like that. That would go deer ribs, seasoned appropriately. Those would be good. The other thing you could probably do with this, you could probably have this live up with some pork dishes, maybe filet. But I mean, really, ultimately, I just like this wine on its own. I don't know if I would really want to pair this with anything other than a few good folks to drink the wine with. Or in my case, hiding it back in the wine fridge so my wife doesn't know I opened it so I can enjoy it all by myself later when she's asleep. Anyway, this has been Stuart with Wine on the Dime. If you like today's video, please like, subscribe, and comment. Have you tried the Big Sur Vineyards Red? I'd be interested to know if you have. Leave a comment below, and I'll see y'all again soon with another episode from Wine on the Dime. In the meantime, I really need to figure out how I can kind of blanket this with some heavy gas and then pop that cork back in and put it back in the fridge and hide it from my wife so that way she doesn't know I have it. I don't have a Corvin, so this is gonna be tricky. Might require some MacGyver level engineering, but I wanna keep this one for myself. I do.